1,000 objects of paintings, Asian art and so on. This new designed square, also here, football screens will be found. It's also Diamond Center on the right here. Another diamond museum here on the right. And we call it the museum district. We call it the Orange Square. You can see Oranjeplein, Orange Square it's called. So the screens will be here to see. And it's not called for nothing the museum district. Look at this other huge line here. These people are going to the Van Gogh Museum. Well, you say Van Gogh, we say Van Gogh. Van Gogh.
Can't do that. It is hard. It's really hard.
And then we have a third interesting museum, which a lot of people unfortunately don't visit in their short period that are here. But it's a very interesting museum because look on the outside, it looks similar like the Rijksmuseum. It was opened up 10 years later, so in 1895 it opened up its door. And in here you will find the modern art, more like Picasso, Mondrian, Monet, Chagall, painters like that. And also this museum has been closed down 12 years. And also last year this opened up. But they extended the old part with a new modern area. And now I'm curious what you think about it. We call it the biggest bathtub of Amsterdam.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Look what you see.
Yes.
And it's new and it's got a crack in it already. Ha ha ha. Look at it. Yeah. It's designed like that, but you see how strange this beautiful old building and then with this new collected modern part on it.
I'm sympathetic.
But I have to say, since I've been in there, I changed my opinion a little bit because it suits the modern art and the light. It's very bright, kind of new extended part of the museum though. Still, the acoustics is so good that when they have royal concerts, they're also held in here. And a lot of famous people have been in concert here of this concert building, like Louis Armstrong, Frank Sinatra, Frank Zappa. And they all performed here in this beautiful concert building. So we're going to leave the historical part of Amsterdam. From here on we took into an area that was built from on the 19th century on. So 19th, 20th and 21st century. And you can see what a different kind of building technique we started. You remember that red brick stone building that I pointed out as being one of the first modern buildings in the middle of the old center? It's all inspired on this building technique and you can recognize it mostly by the red brick stones, the very thick oak kind of run out of coffee, inside. Come and pick up a cup of coffee with me there, no problem. So there's also the stadion here, that's why it's named after the stadion. This is called Olympia Square, and it was a special area because this is where they opened up the first official sport activities with the first biggest like sport location complex here. You can see here a lot of areas that of course are still suitable for children to play outside. And you can see in the dance city center there's hardly any room for children to play. So that's why as soon as people get children, mostly they move out from the dance city center. They live in the more southern areas, at least if you can afford it to move over here. And otherwise people move out from Amsterdam, mostly to like the growing communities of Amsterdam, which are named Purmerend, and also areas like on the new artificial islands, these biker lanes. And in the beginning not a lot of people were using the bike, so they did promotion for it. I think they promoted a bit too hard because now we have more bikers than inhabitants in Amsterdam. But as you can imagine, here in one of the dance cities, it's of course a very efficient way to be able to go around. So from here we're going up to the beautiful mill. I told you that we have about 8 mills here in out area of Amsterdam. One is actually, some people say it's 6 because 2 of them are located closer to halfway up to Haarlem. And the name halfway is actually explaining already what was stationed there. The first travel train system that we used here was done by these like pulling boats. People were pulling the boats with passengers from the side on this straight canal. That was done first by horses. Then of course after a while they needed a rest, and that was halfway up to the destination of Haarlem, and that's why this village is still called Halfway. That's where the horses could take a rest, people could go for lunch, and that's where you also find 2 mills, one grain mill and one flour mill. Pump it into the side canals. Then another ring dike was built till you had like 3 dikes and 3 water rings, like canal rings, around the lake. On this way, slowly the lake was able to be pumped out completely, and except we didn't fill it up with soil again. We started living on the bottoms of these former lake areas, and that's why you call the northern part the lowlands of the Netherlands. What happens when you empty out the lake? You're automatically already below sea level, and that's why the deepest points reach to 5.8 meters below sea level, not far out of Amsterdam. That's the area that's constantly be flooded from the Zuiderzee, and that's when we have this lakes area, and we've been pumping that out. And we're now here near another kind of mill. The other 20% of the mills that we were using here in the Netherlands, these were industrial mills. So you had like mustard mills, oil mills, paper mills, and of course a very important event was the wood sawing mill. On this way we're able to work the wood very rapidly, build our ships, build our bridges and our houses here in the early days. The house is for sale, and officially till 5-6 years ago a house here in Amsterdam was for sale average like about 2-3 months before it was sold, and now some of the houses are standing empty 1.5 years. So that's a huge difference within the last 5-8 years since we took into this financial crisis. So we really notice it also here. Then of course, since we joined into the euro, that made a lot of difference for different countries here. That means we're also responsible to help out countries that have more problems that we have here, like in Italy or in Spain or in Greece. Where a lot of the people that have been working till the euro, they could live a normal life, and then since it changed into euros, everything doubled the price, and a lot of people got involved in problems because of that. So the euro has not, look at that's the other mill here. So a lot of people, yes, they suffer from this problem, and then of course the unemployment increased too, although it's not as bad as that we had here in the 80s. Then 19% of the Amsterdam inhabitants was unemployed. This was the highest we've ever lived with. Not in general in the Netherlands, because there was 11-13, but in Amsterdam it went up like that. And a lot of the factories were closed down, so people were seeking for new jobs. And that's when I started these extra projects from also Amsterdam. They built this replica ship where 400 men learned also a new profession on it. And now it's a lot less than those numbers, but still, as soon as you get unemployed, it's not that you will get all this money back from the government anymore. So a lot of lovely little village here. The bridge is going open now. Yeah. Oh, hoofdbootje.
Ja. Dan moeten we even wachten.
Yeah. The boat needs to get through, yeah. Cars that was only to be used for disabled or handicapped people, but now there's a real rush on it, because these are the ones where you don't pay any parking money for, so you can park them wherever, and if you know that you pay €5 per hour, you can imagine how interested this became. They use the biker lanes, they have free access on the ferry boats, and they all use the handicapped parking lots also, that are always located near the shopping malls, near the center and so on. New residential areas. So for the students, mostly they live in smaller sized apartments. I remember my first student apartment. I had a room with everything in it, but it was not bigger than 20 square meters. That meant with one leg I came out of the bed, I could open up the shower. The other leg was coming out of the other side of the bed, and I could turn the coffee machine on already at the same moment. Turn around, get your clothes out of the closet, and off you were. So very small. And since 8 years myself, I moved over to the northern side, which you can see it's a very green area here. It's quiet, and the best thing is that since I wanted to have a car back, that's the only location where you're able to park your car for free. So that's a big difference than comparing with the city center. Here on the right you can see the new bridge, which is taking you to another new residential area. It's one of the artificial islands, which is called Eiburg. And you can see the bridge. It's called the Dolly Parton Bridge, or the Bordeaux Bridge. At the size of it looks like the broad bridge of Amsterdam. Dolly Parton Bridge. And on this island there's also a nice beach area. It's artificial beach, but we swim in the lake because this used to be all part in open connection with the Zuiderzee. From here you would tuck into the Zuiderzee. Look, you can overview the rest of the lake here in front. And this is still the waterway Eije, but from here on it was in an open connection to the Zuiderzee. So probably in a couple of years, all this area in between the residential area and here will also be built up.